What is up? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Shred Show Live. You can see her bright, smiling face anytime I'm hanging out with Kristin. Is an absolutely one of the best opportunities. Plus, she's brilliant, she's smart, she's talented, she's beautiful, and she is sharing some incredible things with you today. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about top performers, habits, and strategies. This is going to be one of those times where you're absolutely going to want to listen. You're going to want to tag all your friends. You're going to want to share this because what Kristin and I are about to get into is so relevant, is so important for all of us in the industry to be thinking about, to be top of mind with. So, ladies and gentlemen, are you ready? Are you ready? It is time to shred. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Friday. We hope everybody has had an incredible week, and I literally cannot tell you how excited I am. I actually saw her in person earlier in the week, and then I'm like, I get to shred with Kristin later in the week too. Anytime I get to hang out with Kristin twice in 1 week, that just makes it fulfills a week, ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you what. But I'm joined by Kristin Messerli, VP of Strategy over at Experience.com. Excited to be hanging out with you. Kristin, how the heck are you?
Awesome. Great to see you again.
Good to see you. Yeah, we saw each other earlier in the week when we were in California for a couple of different events. So you live there, I know, but it was such beautiful weather while I was there. I was like, man, I could get used to this. This is it was absolutely beautiful while we were there. Had great events, great strategies, sessions, great collaboration while I was there. So, but today, that kind of goes right along with what you and I are talking about. Recently, Experience.com has actually created some awards. There's some people who are just absolutely dominating, some top performers, if you will, who are standing out from above the rest, which in my opinion, this is the time right now. You have to be thinking of these strategies. You have to be creating these habits, because if you don't, Kristin, like there's just so many other people who are doing it. They're the ones who are actually making it happen. So to even compete, to be able to be considered among those, you have to work hard at it. So tell us a little bit about why did you guys put these awards together?
Yeah, so we actually, first of all, great to be here. Your energy always is so invigorating and contagious. I'm always like, oh yeah, that's right. We're shredding right now.
We're on. Let's go.
Let's go. Yeah, so it is exciting. We actually had put together these awards for several years. And then last year we didn't do it. So this is my first year at experience.com participating in these awards. It definitely came back by popular demand. But these are top performers and top performing companies. But we looked at over 40,000 loan officers on our platform, over 350 companies, and identified the top 1% of companies of performing loan officers, and our top 5 companies in each category from small to jumbo, and identified those based on their star rating and number of reviews. And so those have been identified and released to the public as of this week.
That is awesome. I mean, clearly some research, some due diligence. It's not just like, and I'm not going to say like, there's a lot of talk going around in the industry right now for pay to play lists and awards. And this is not that. This is like, hey, you guys did your research. You found those who are truly performing in the industry. And that's why when you guys mentioned this to me, I'm like, this is incredible. I was actually back when it was Social Survey. I remember going and seeing those top awards back in a couple of years ago. And so when I heard you guys were bringing it back, I'm like, this is awesome. This is so exciting because, again, it's the focus on those who are top performers. And if you're not, we're going to be talking about some of the strategies that they have done so you can include yourself, so you can be considered among this. So you guys do this due diligence. You put these awards together. And again, now you have found some of the best, these top performers. What are some of those you mentioned them, but what are those top performer categories? What are you guys really looking for?
Yeah, so the loan officers, we do the top 1% gets the award as our top performers. And then on the company side, we look at a company winner for small, medium, large, and jumbo. And then we're looking at the number of reviews, survey completion rates, and star ratings to identify those.
And so let's talk. I mean, this is Experience's realm right now, is because so many people, the shopping experience, if you will, or the home buying experience is starting online. Reviews are critical. Reviews and being able to showcase, if you will, or highlight the experience that you're creating for your consumers, for your borrowers, for your friends, for your family, for those you are helping achieve the dream of homeownership. being able to showcase and being able to highlight those experiences and those reviews is a really, really critical piece right now, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm so excited about this word. As you mentioned, it's not a pay to play situation. It's truly just celebrating people that are rated the highest in their customer experience. And this is something, as you know, I speak on all the time, and I've done a lot of research from the borrower perspective. I published the 2020 and 2021 Next Gen Homebuyer Report, where I
Yep.
surveyed over 3,000 Next Gen homebuyers on what made a great customer experience for them. So it's been really interesting to look at this now from the lender and loan officer perspective. And I've interviewed our top performer companies and most of the top 10 loan officers, asking them what makes your customer experience the great, what makes it a top performer. And it was really interesting to kind of hear those responses and compare them even with what our borrowers have said as well.
Okay, so now I'm intrigued. You've got me hooked, Kristen. So what? So you have had the opportunity to talk with these companies, these
Yes.
originators. So what are some of those? Like, what are the characteristics? What does it take to be a top performer?
Well, it's funny because, as I started doing the interviews, I was like, "Well, this seems kind like I there wasn't anything that was like, oh, this is the magic bullet," you know? But very consistent. And when I say what was consistent across each of the top performers, you might think, "Oh, yeah, of course," you know? But what happens is they make those things a part of their process, you know, and
Hmm.
they're really meticulous about, for example, being responsive. That was across the board. Every single loan officer said something to the effect of being responsive and having good communication. So that was interesting. And also, what was interesting on the other side of that, from the borrower perspective, we found that only 50% or 52% of the borrowers said that they had a great experience with their loan officer. And so we asked them, what would have made your experience better? And the
Hmm.
number one response to that was that they wish their loan officer had been more responsive. And so it's interesting to see that, you know, correlation there of how important communication is in building a great customer experience. So that was one of the major
Okay, I
components.
want to stop there for just a second. We can get into some other ones, but Kristen, this just seems like it's so like fundamental. Like it's like, but I
Mhm.
mean, 52%, that's half. Half of all barbers out there feel like they could have had a better experience. Like that is just bad. We talk so much about building relationships, building trust, building that confidence, yet we're not like we're falling short a little bit. So it's just like, ladies and gentlemen, everybody listening, that means 50% of barbers, consumers out there could have had a better experience. We need to step it up as an industry. I know recently, and my good friend Josh literally just went through this, and we were talking about it earlier today. Is he had a terrible experience with his loan officer? It just didn't go well. There was the responsiveness. He was texting him, calling him, and he was just not responsive. He's like, and again, I know him very well. He just expected the minimum. So it's so crazy to me to think, Kristen, that we just need to step up our game a little bit. We don't need to do anything extravagant. We just need to do the things like that are simple, the fundamentals, it almost seems like, that really stand out.
Yeah, well, and one thing that I think we take for granted sometimes is how much that means to the borrower that you just respond. It doesn't necessarily mean that you even have an answer yet, but it's just saying like, "Hey, I see you and I hear you, and I'm going to get back with you on this," you know. But I think I've been talking a lot with loan officers lately about how anxious consumers are. And you think about how, especially for the next gen consumer, every part of our adulthood of managing money, we have been able to make purchases where we get an instant response, or we have, you know, instant access to information about the transaction.
Yeah.
And then you go to make the biggest financial purchase of your life, and if you don't have that instant access to information or a response, it makes us naturally feel very uncomfortable. And I think more so than maybe previous generations, even, where that wasn't as normal in years past. And so our natural response is to be like, "Oh gosh, what's happening? Why haven't I heard from them?" And it just takes that quick response to make us feel like we're having a great customer experience.
It's so funny that you say that because, like you said, they're not always expecting an answer. They just want to know that they're heard, that they've been seen,
Hmm.
that like, and even if you don't have the answer right then, or even if it's on the weekend, I know I always tell people like, hey, take the time for your family, but it can be as simple as like, hey, Kristen, I'll get like, let me double check on that on Monday. I'll get back to you. Like, again, just to know that they've been heard, that responsiveness. This is for everybody listening. The fact that 50% of consumers are just, they feel like they didn't have that. This is one of those things going into this new year, being able to stand out as interest rates are on the rise. Like this is one of those simple things. So I love this. So that was one of the biggest ones. So what was another one that you really found kind of was, repetitive, or you saw that was really, that stood out among these other top performers?
Yeah, so the other major one was around advice and guidance. So everyone talked about building into their customer experience the fact that they are guiding them through the process. Multiple people, I mean, some of the quotes were from like making sure the borrower didn't feel alone through the process, that they understood that they're not doing it by themselves. One that was from Patrick Holland of Embrace Home Loans. I think that I did a great interview that we are publishing on our social media platform soon with Mike Farr of Finance of America, who was our he's the president of retail and our Jumbo Award winner. And he said, we measure our success not just by the volume, but by the financial health and success of our customers. And I think, thinking beyond just how can I fulfill this transaction, but thinking about beyond the transaction, how am I setting myself up as a guide through this process and
Yeah.
someone who is going to help support them. So I think there's a couple of components there, but one is that you're making them feel, heard, like we were just talking about. You're making sure that they don't feel alone through this, but then you're also actually being seen as an expert through the process as well.
This is something that is absolutely brilliant. I think being an expert, being able to be this advisor, I literally talked about some of our content that's going to be airing next week. I talked a lot about this. Before we get into this, Trend Best, what are Kristen's experience socials? I'm not sure if you're asking for Kristen's or experience. If you go to experience.com, or if you find them on LinkedIn, on Instagram, it's just experience.com. Search it, you can find it there. So great question. And go engage with them. That's a great trend, great reminder there to engage with experience.com and Kristen on socials. But going back to your point here, this is something we have to be more, take it more of an advisor role, not just being a
Mhm.
loan officer anymore, not just being an originator. That's just not enough. We have to start taking it as, how are we adding value? How are we creating new opportunities for our clients? Listening is part of that. Being responsive is part of that. But again, it goes deeper than that now. Now, there's a very fine line of being a financial advisor and being, a mortgage advisor. There's a very fine line there, and make sure we don't want to cross it, because we are not financial planners or advisors in any way, but we are mortgage. Like, this is one of the biggest purchase decisions. This is one of the largest assets ever purchased. We can help them. We can advise them. We can, as long as we have the knowledge and expertise ourselves, Kristen, we can in turn go and help our consumers, help those, that we help achieve that dream of homeownership. We can add more value than just the home purchase process.
Yeah, well, and a couple of stats from our homebuyer research showed that people don't have the education or confidence going into the home buying process. And so, like I said, I surveyed over 3,000 next gen homebuyers who either recently bought a home or were about to buy a home. And 1 in 4 said that their biggest challenge was a lack of understanding. And 1 in 5 said that they weren't confident in any step of the home buying process. So any step.
Oh,
So I think that just overall, what we got from home buyers was a level of anxiety, also general distrust. 2 and 3 said that they didn't think lenders were trustworthy or reliable. And so if you take that and then you lay on a customer experience that is around being responsive and providing the guidance that they need to help them understand what it takes to qualify, what it's going to look like to buy a home, and then being that kind of wealth through homeownership advisor beyond the transaction, that is going to make a consumer who is typically very distrusting and anxious feel that you are a shining light in what feels like a very dark space. And
mm,
that is a huge opportunity. So for those half of home buyers that say they didn't have a great experience, you're now able to capture that audience and say, hey, you're never going to go through this alone again. And then am someone who, as a homeowner, would absolutely send as much business as I possibly can to you because I trust you and I want everyone I know and care about to have that same experience.
Okay, what you just said, guys, you have to go back and listen to that one last minute to 2 minutes, what Kristen is talking about, because it is so critically important to know. Again, when we're working with friends and family, the numbers that you just shared are just astonishing to me. Again, 1 in 4, 1 in 5 people that, again, have no confidence in the home. Like, that's just like, whoa, so many of us, whether you think you created the best experience ever, that you're just like, you went over the moon, it's completely irrelevant to you. It's finding out how it went to your borrower. How did it go for them? Did they have a good, not only experience, were you responsive? Did you create that trust? Home buying, Kristen, just because we do this day in and day out, sometimes we forget how intimidating it is to buy a home, to be spending literally hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like, we're literally signing this like incredibly big purchase in our lives. So yes, we have the knowledge, but I think this is why I talk about creating content so often. Is we have to create content. We have to share our expertise. We have to be able to educate the consumer so they can go into this feeling confident, be like, yes, Kristen taught me. This is why I'm going to work with her. Like, I have that trust. I have that confidence. She's continued to share this with me. So everybody listening, this is why I always talk about whether we have interest rates up, whether we're in a down market, whatever it is, there's always opportunity, because the numbers Kristen just shared, people are not having great experiences. They don't feel like their loan officer, their loan advisor, their mortgage professional, whatever you want to call it, has their best interest in mind. They didn't teach them as much or educate them as much as possible. Kristen, there's so much opportunity in a market like this, especially as you talk about these things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I went through the home buying process a year ago, and that was my second time around, but it was in LA instead of Oklahoma. And that was a very different market. And it was interesting going through it because it had been 10 years. And I built my career around financial literacy. Like, I know what it takes to buy a home, all of that. And yet when I started going through it personally, the level of anxiety and skepticism and all of that was just, I mean, it was so intense. And I talk about this all the time, but we have to remember that financial decisions are not in a little box of logic over here. We
Mm.
are absolutely they're inextricably tied to our emotions and our feelings and our experiences and our assumptions that we're getting from our context as well. And so I think as you manage and build a customer experience, you have to address those kinds of emotions in order to help them make logical decisions and help your consumers feel empowered to make smart decisions for themselves.
That's just it. It is empowering them. That word that you use right there, you do have to empower your home buyers. You do have to empower those that you are serving, because that's what ultimately gives them that confidence. That's what helps them. They want to. No one wants to be sold on anything. Nobody wants to be told what to do. People want to be given options. They want to see that, like, hey, you are the advisor. You are the one that has been doing this for years and years and years. You and I have been doing this, for 10 plus years. So we are comfortable with it. But even us, when we've gone through these home buying experiences recently, like, things that come up, things change. Our industry is always evolving. Thus, why it's our opportunity to go and empower our borrowers, go empower those buying a home, give them the options, educate them on the process so they can feel confident. They are part of this with us. It's not just us telling them what to do. It's educating through this whole thing. Kristen, this is why I love talking to you. You're so brilliant. You know so much about this, and sharing it with everybody here is just so incredibly valuable. As we start to wrap things up here, what other findings did you find? What other pertinent information or data did you guys collect that is like, this is the top performer? This is some of the stuff that we really noticed was like impactful.
Yeah. So what we've talked about, I've kind of summarized a lot of them, but one was the communication and responsiveness. Two was being a guide through the process and talking about not leaving them feeling alone. Another was being an advisor. So similar, but adding that component of truly helping them understand and empowering the consumer. But another one was in terms of building the culture into their process. And I think that having that kind of like they talk about how their teams understand the power of the customer experience, and from the moment that they Google search their name, they know what's going to come up. They know that they're going to see reviews that help the consumer feel safe, and they often are sending them those reviews ahead of time. And then the consultative process at the very beginning, they explain, here's what you can expect to see when you work with me, and here's what you can expect to go through, so that they're very clear on that, all the way through celebrating the closing and making sure that they are staying in touch with the borrower beyond the transaction. So I heard all of those components from our top performers. And I think that just keeping that kind of consistency in the customer experience built into the process and the team was an aspect that was worth noting as well.
See, I think that's big. That consistency, keeping in touch after the transaction, I think is a big one. Jeffrey Smith coming in, hashtag empower borrowers. Absolutely agree. That's what we're trying to do, Jeffrey, is empower them, educate them, and help them. This is an opportunity, as Kristin's mentioned, as I've mentioned, we have this knowledge, and it's up to us to be able to share with them, to create this consistency, create this relationship. And again, everything you're talking about here, Kristin, none of it is like groundbreaking. Like we're not trying to shock and all. Like these things that you're sharing here is just like, it seems like it's so like, of course, that like it seems so common knowledge, but we're just, as you're seeing, as you've done, as all the research that you did, like it's just not happening there. Or if it is, it's on a
Yeah.
limited basis. So it's like, ladies and gentlemen, if you're in this profession, if you're in the industry, now's the time to be stepping up. Now's the time to really be differentiating yourself, separating yourself from the rest. And again, it's not something you have to go and do that's completely like, whoa, I never would have thought of that. It's like, yes, of course you were. Like, this is pretty simple. This is pretty rudimentary stuff. So this is so exciting to me. And I'm so grateful for you, Kristin, grateful for Experience, for finding these top performers. It's for going out and actually doing the due diligence and the research to actually find, like, what does that look like these days? Is there a place that the top performers have been? Have you guys posted like a list, or can we, like, is there a place that we can go and share that?
Yes. So you can go to experience.com slash top dash performers, and you can see all of that there. We've also posted this on LinkedIn and our social media. Definitely follow us on LinkedIn, because the experience.com, as well as myself. And we're going to be posting some of the interviews that I've done with the top performers as well. And I think that's going to be really interesting. But if you don't mind, I'll just announce our top five, the
Of course. I was going to say,
company.
yeah.
And yeah, okay, great. So our top performer company winners were on the small side was Zenith Home Loans, which is also our number one loan officer, was Giuseppe Battaglioli from Zenith Home Loans. And our medium winner was Summit Mortgage, and large Envoy and Jumbo Finance of America. So definitely check those out, and you can follow us on LinkedIn to see those interviews come out over time as well.
I was going to say, go check out experience.com's LinkedIn page. So you can, Kristin, if she's doing these interviews, you guys definitely do not want to miss them. Because as you've seen, this is just a snippet of it. You just get to hear a little tiny bit of the brilliance that Kristin's going to be sharing during those interviews. So make sure you go follow them, go check it out. Go to experience.com/top-performers. We'll share it as well in the links below, so you guys can go check that out. Because again, you want to follow these people. You want to follow these top performers, ladies and gentlemen. I talk about this, is you want to steal like an artist. I talk about the book often. See what people are doing amazingly and go and replicate it. Go and do what they're doing. Go and listen to these interviews that Kristin's created. She's done all the hard work for you, ladies. She's giving you the playbook. Kristin's laying it out for you, saying, here you go, ladies and gentlemen, let's make it happen. So,
well, and that's what I want to say through all of this. We're celebrating our winners, but we also want to like be able to share their insights and celebrate the overall customer experience. And so I'd love to hear from anyone else what they're doing to build a great customer experience, what you guys are doing to help improve that experience with today's borrowers, and share that as well and celebrate that.
absolutely. Gabriella, I know I've really appreciated all the personal touches that our mortgage provider and even our realtor wove into our home buying process. It's like, Henry, thank you. It's the simple things. Gabriella, absolutely. That is a great example. It's the little things that stand out that, again, they are not earth shattering. These aren't something that's just like, wow, I never would have thought of that. But Kristin, again, I cannot thank you enough. Dal and our Shred team just posted those links on all social platforms. So go check them out. Go take a look at these lists. And again, look at these top performers, see what they're doing so you can make 2022 your best year ever. Kristin, this has been absolutely brilliant. You're incredible. Thank you so much for taking time and coming and sharing all that you have today.
Great. Thank you so much for having me.
Guys, you have to keep an eye on Kristin. Go follow her on the social channels. Like I said, go follow Experience because they're here to help you. They want to create the best experience for you and your borrowers. That's what they're there to do. They want to help you. And it's so simple. You just need to start doing it. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, we hope you've had an incredible week. We hope you have an amazing weekend. Be safe out there. And as always, we appreciate you. We love you. Now it's time for all of you guys to go shred, go show up, hustle, repeat every day. See ya.